Dude, Season 2 is amazing. Look, I'm a cat girl.
Yeah.
This is the best game I've ever played. Blue Protocol Star Residence Season 2 is finally here, and with it comes many improvements to the map, the class system, new game modes, imagines, dungeons, gear, and tons of quality of life. There are so many new things in Season 2 of Star Residence, and I'm gonna be going over them all in this video. My name is Braxophone, but you can call me Brax, and let's talk about everything new in Blue Protocol Star Residence Season 2. But before we get into that, I do want to just let you guys know that we do have a community of Star Residence players in my Discord, and if you're interested in joining, make sure to click on the link in the description below. In addition to that, I also do go live with Star Residence sometimes at twitch.tv/Brax. I'll be there. One of the first new things and one of the biggest updates in Star Residence was the addition of 3 brand new zones. So this was the Season 1 zone. Now Season 2 has added 3 new areas, and the Bahamar Highlands is a huge one. This is going to be where the main story kicks off for the next season, and overall, it is just beautiful. There's this nice little town over here, and there's tons of things to do around the map, including new life skilling nodes, and even some new game modes. Season 2 has added these drifting cocoons as a challenge for players around the map, and you will find these in every single new zone that is on this map. But for me, the excitement isn't in the new zones, it's in the brand new combat abilities and game mode that came along with it. If you've played Star Residence for any amount of time, then you probably know that healers are not given a resurrect ability in this game. There are multiple ways to resurrect, but all of them can be tied to money, and overall, it was a terrible system. However, in Season 2, they fixed that by giving us access to the brand new role skills. Now, DPS will have these attack skills, healers will have these support skills, and tanks will have these guardian skills. And as I mentioned, healers now have access to revival skills. Revives the nearest ally within 3 meters. It has a 1.5 minute cooldown, but overall, this is pretty dang good, especially if you're running higher end content with multiple healers. Finally, it feels like they can do something. Personally, I would like to see this cooldown drop down to maybe like 60 seconds, but this is a great start and a much needed improvement. Healers have also been given a cleanse for your party, a party-wide shield, and an AoE silence effect on enemies. As for DPS, DPS can now interrupt enemies, and there are some enemies that need to have their casts interrupted by DPS, especially in the harder tier content. DPS also do have a personal damage mitigation, so let's say that the tank loses aggro at some point, it makes it a little easier to stay alive. DPS also has another ability that prevents aggro generation and cleanses them of all debuffs. And lastly, they are able to instantly recover stamina and increase their movement speed. This is great in a pinch if a boss is doing a move and you are too close to an AoE or something of that sort. Think of it as a panic button. Lastly, you have the tank abilities, and these actually open up a lot of opportunities. Tanks have 4 new abilities, but 2 of them are incredibly important for how the game actually plays. One of them allows them to not generate aggro, and another one of them taunts the enemy target. Now, this is a big deal because it means we can finally add tank swaps to raids. You can have a boss that's targeting one tank that debuffs them and then does a second tank buster, and in between those 2 busters, the tanks will have to switch who the boss is targeting by using these abilities. This adds for a little bit more variety in gameplay and gives tanks actual mechanics to worry about in raids. On top of that, they also have interrupts and AoE taunts, and on top of that, you do have a huge mitigation that you can use once every 80 seconds. So these new role skills are really game-changing, especially for the high-end content scene, and overall add a ton to the game. And the cool part is you can have all 4 of them accessible at the same time with the new extra hotbar they added. But we also do have a brand new type of content that's different from the previous content we've experienced in this game. Valley of Slumbering Dreams is a roguelike game mode that allows you to enter in with a party of friends and pick up buffs along the way. These buffs will allow you to get more powerful over time, and after every run, should you be lucky enough, you'll unlock some other separate buffs that will help you journey even further into the roguelike. Because it's a roguelike, it can be very fun to stack a ton of buffs and feel very powerful, especially by the end of the run, and personally, I'm a really big fan of this, especially since it's party-based. There's also a brand new store that comes with the roguelike, and this will allow you access to a ton of new items, including some season-specific items, high-tier modules, and high-tier gear. The shop also has some sigils in it, but I'll get into what those do in a little bit. If you go over to your season page, you actually have access to 2 different forms of brand new skill trees. Last season, you just had some void abilities you can unlock. This season, you're going to pick a tree, and based on that ability, you are going to use it to min-max your class even further. And what you can do is unlock down your tree and slot special abilities that all have different effects. This allows for so much customization, and overall it is a very fun way to play the game. However, as I mentioned, there are two trees. This red tree is actually for the roguelike game mode, and the buffs in this one are absolutely insane. For example, there's this Imagine Acceleration tree, which reduces Battle Imagine cooldown by 80%. This Coordinated Strike tree and ability will actually restore HP to allies when you use class skills, and Overload Crit allows you to crit way more often. The roguelike ability trees are really busted for the roguelike game mode. However, they're not usable outside of that, so there's not really a point in worrying about maxing this out if you're not doing the roguelike content. However, I do really recommend you do it because it's pretty fun, but if nothing else, you do want to go ahead and pick a skill tree and go ahead and level it up so that way you can get the most benefits this season. But speaking of Imagines, there are actually a ton of new Imagines in the game, and while I'm not going to go over every single one and what it does in this video, I am going to talk about the new premium Imagines, which are really cool. One great thing about the new Imagines is that they allow different classes to have more unique best in slot builds, and thus not every single person is going to use the exact same Imagines. One of the brand new Imagines, Rorola, seems to be very powerful for DPS because it gives you a damage boost, but the damage boost is actually more like a damage amplify, which increases your damage by the exact percent the damage boost actually is. So if you have a 10% damage boost and you do 100 damage, you're now doing 110 damage. The other cool thing about this though is that it actually gives you lifesteal, and it has a very long duration. It does say 20 seconds, however, you can extend the duration of this effect by up to 15 more seconds for a total of 35-second duration of this crazy buff. So Rorola is going to be an amazing pickup for DPS. However, some DPS do have other Imagines that are worth picking up. Now, Boyce looked like he was going to be super busted. He has some attack speed bonuses, and he's generally decent, but Rorola outperforms Boyce by a fair bit. Fafala is a supportive defensive Imagine, and Dorothy is a new transformation with a whole lot of text. There's also some other new Imagines as well, and as I mentioned, I won't get into all of them, but you have more to look forward to, especially if you are a min-maxer. However, do keep in mind that many old Imagines still remain very powerful, and in some cases, even best in slots. So if you're worried about your Imagines falling out of the meta, don't worry too much, they're probably still pretty good. We also have brand new dungeons with even higher tier gear and loot. Now, I'll go over gear in just a moment, but something I'm really excited about is to have brand new content available in the game with new bosses and mechanics, because one of my favorite things about group content is figuring out how to resolve tough mechanics. The only thing that I'm bummed about is that it does appear the old dungeons are vaulted, so you will no longer have access to the older ones, and the cosmetics that were available in those dungeons are no longer available to you. Personally, I do think it's a mistake to remove old content from the game. If you look at other games that have done so, almost every single person agrees that old content should always persist in MMOs. Old content existing means that once players are done with the new content or the current content, they can always go back and have more to farm. And something that new gen MMOs struggle with is not having enough actual content to retain players. So I really do hope they bring back old dungeons and old cosmetic farms, because right now they don't seem to be here. They did make one good change to cosmetics though. For players who are tired of RNG, instead of having a random chance to get the item, you now collect a Dreamweave Silk of the cosmetic that you want to get, and once you have a certain amount of these, you can just purchase the new cosmetics. Now, a minute ago I mentioned brand new tiers of gear, and this is absolutely true, and to be honest, I didn't expect it to go this high. Here we are with even higher level gear than we had last season, and it's by a pretty significant amount. Your gear can actually go up to level 160, and if you get your relic weapon, it can go up to 170. Now, this gear still only requires you to be a level 60 character, which is no problem because every single person who logs into this game will have the opportunity to start from level 60. So no tedious grind to get your character level up, you should be able to just engage with the content immediately. These new tiers of gear seem to have essentially the same progression loop as the older gears. However, it does take significantly longer to max out a gear's reforge. To give you an example, each one of these will now grant 3 perfection, which means you're gonna need a whole lot of reforge stones to be able to max these out now. The good news is though, you still do get all your reforge stones back if you dismantle. There's also some other amazing news, and it has to do with weapon and gear refinements. Gear refining is one of the most annoying parts of this game and of other MMOs that follow a similar system. The reason is because you have a success rate, and that success rate could mean you lose all of the items that you put into the gear refinements. However, to counteract this, you would use something like Bury Mech Shards and Moss Mech Shards in combination. However, because we do have access to new Mech Shards with the new life skill nodes this season, you can actually use both Bury Mech Shards and the brand new craftable Meteorite netherite mech shards to add a total of 40% success rate, which after adding moss mech shards on top of that, you can add a total of 49% chance of success. This puts me at 99%, so if I miss it, I'm gonna be kind of upset. But luckily, we didn't hit the 1%. Speaking of life skilling changes, there are many new nodes and farmable items, but a lot of them do the same thing as before. The notable changes are to the culinary, alchemy, and gem crafting life skills, which have some different items now. For example, gem crafting has actually had some changes where instead of using the crafted gems with these static stat points, you actually create these new gems which allow you to slot an item called a sigil. Now, I personally don't have any of these sigils, but you can get them by doing bosses, and these sigils will all have special stat spreads that you can equip onto your gear. These are stronger than the gems, however, they are a little bit more tedious, so expect to do a little bit more grinding for best in slot if you're really trying to min-max with these sigils. Another interesting thing is that some of the newer nodes actually provide more items per node mined or gathered. For example, if you look at the mystery metal, this is with the old node from season 1, and if we go to the season 2 node, the probability of getting more than one item changes. In season 1, it was 80% one item, 20% two items, and in season 2, you have 55% for one item and a much higher chance of getting more than one item. This makes it so that the season 2 nodes are in fact stronger than the season 1 nodes, but there are some items like bury mech shards that you're still going to want to collect regardless of what season they're from. And of course, for fashion players, because fashion is the true end game, there are a ton of new cosmetics. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I am a cat. There are some brand new outfits that I think look really, really nice, with some brand new dresses, some brand new animal ears and horns, some new Meowlux outfits as well, and of course they come with some brand new hairstyles, some new weapons with new effects, and dude, oh my gosh, wait, that looks sick, and of course, a little mount guy here. We also do have new gacha stuff, so if you want the gacha mount or the gacha outfit, those are available as well. And also on the customization side of things, you can now choose different voice lines for your character, so you're not actually stuck with one voice. If you have an adult male, you don't have to sound like a little kid anymore. Oh, and there's one other important thing too. You now have a second hat slot, so you can actually wear the animal ears and a hat if you wanted to. Mix and match to your heart's content. Now, as far as the new raids go, I haven't been able to do them because I am on a beta server and there's not enough players playing for me to organize a group for them. However, I have heard from the CN side of things that there's lots of new mechanics and that people do like the actual battle content in this game, especially for season 2. But one of the things that makes it so easy to enjoy the new battle content is the new loadouts they've added. You can actually switch loadouts on a whim. So right now I have 31k gear score. I'm gonna go to loadout 2. Boom, I'm down to 22k. Why would I want to gimp myself? I don't know. But it's cool because if you switch classes a lot and you actually want to be very flexible and quick with your switches, these loadouts are going to be a game changer for you, and they're gonna make it significantly easier for you to play multiple classes in Blue Protocol Star Resonance. So with all that being said, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys are looking forward to season 2 of Star Resonance, because I absolutely am. I'm actually considering starting a new channel for Star Resonance where I just post weekly content. So if that's something you'd be interested in, let me know in the comments down below and tell me what you're most looking forward to in Star Resonance season 2. Later.